So, all right, let's get to the nuts and bolts because I want to go ahead and get into some uh, coaching session, the clinic, right? So the way we're going to do this is I want JT to kind of start with for all of us to be able to talk about um, pressures. When we're going into 4-2-5, one of the things we've been talking about, George, a little bit is how do you disguise out it? What do you do? We had a debate last week. I call it a debate, but a discussion about how um, a 3-4 can look like a 4-2-5, can look like stuff just depending on where you place guys and all this. And we're anticipating that we're going to see more 4-2-5. Got my air quotes up on from this defensive staff, right? Bama didn't really do a lot of extreme pressures. Most of the time, we didn't send a lot of guys all the time. We just tried to whoop people one-on-one. So we're trying to educate some people on what it looks like if we do some things. So JT has done some research and we picked a couple plays. And we want to talk to you about what those are first. And then we're going to have George kind of talk about from the offensive side what it looks like to a quarterback, offensive line, how they identify. So this is going to be high-level stuff. So y'all better get y'all pens, papers ready, or whatever, and it might blow your mind a little bit when we're going through it, but that's what we do on Teague's Taking. That's why y'all listen, because y'all want to know what the hell is really happening. So when you're watching the game, you're just not going, who was supposed to be where or whatnot. We're trying to give you the real talk. So maybe when you watch it and someone's sitting next to you, you're going, dude, you don't know what you're talking about. You just can't say, you know what I hate in the game? That parent that goes, block somebody. What the hell are you talking about? You can't block
What were
nobody,
they
man.
doing?
You know what I'm saying? So we want to talk about 5-man pressures or what can kind of look like that, right? JT, is that how you want to start? How do you want to start?
Well, before I want to get into a little bit of follow up from 2 weeks ago because we did like the high level overview of the 4-2-5, and I was meaning to screenshot some comments so we could talk about it. But there were a lot of questions on how often we expect D linemen to be two gapping in a 4-2-5. The short answer is never, because it's even spacing. You're playing half a man. Each defensive lineman is responsible for one gap. You don't two gap in an even front. And then we saw some comments saying that 4-2-5s look and function kind of like a 3-5, which is also not possible because a 30 front, anything that starts with a 3 is an odd front, different spacing. That's where you two gap. So if you're going to have 3 defensive linemen down versus 4 defensive linemen, the rules are completely different on what you're asking certain guys to do. All of your linemen don't have to two gap in a 30 front, but at least one of them does, and it's probably your nose. He's probably going to be over the center. But you can, those tight fronts where you got those in 4 eyes, those guys won't two gap, but your nose will. So just wanted to get that out of the way, because now what we're going to talk about is pressuring out of a 4-2-5. And before we really get into the nuts and bolts of it, what I want to do is show you how we can build up a pressure package, and probably introduce some of you to some new vocabulary words. They're not universal words. They're words that I use, some other coaches use, but sometimes they're used interchangeably for different things. But we can get into that with this play art here. So what we have here is just a standard 5-man pressure. This is what we're going to define as just a blitz. When we say a blitz out of a four down front, that means we're bringing 5 people. That blitz, the word blitz also means, at least in my vocabulary, bringing 5 people, which means if you are in a 30 front and you blitz a linebacker, that's not extra pressure. You're still only bringing 4 people. Would you agree with that, Coach Hageman?
Bringing more than we got to block. That's the simplest thing for it that we think about.
I think that's a very good way to put it. So what I have here on the screen is just I've got in the first three boxes, the ones on the top two. I guess I can draw, because we have that capability. We'll call this box number 1. This is number 2, number 3, and where our faces are number 4. Numbers 1, 2, and 3 are actually all the same blitz. We're bringing the same person. We're just telling him to go into a different gap. And we can tag those. That's not particularly important. What's important is we've got the 4 down linemen plus the linebacker. It's 5 people, hence why it's called a 5-man pressure. And I've only put this one here, Supersonics, where we bring the Sam off the edge, because with 5-man pressures, once you have a base like this, we can start putting these Legos together to build more exotic things, more complicated things, more people together. So I just wanted to show this to you as the fundamentals of basic building blocks, because we can just take this and we start building extra things. So the next thing that
Hold on, let me interrupt just because I just want to give Hagerman a thought here as you kind of go that, because the follow-up question I'm going to have is how do you, because we have it as M, which means Mike backer. What we're going to want to hear from you is how you, from the other side, how you actually identifying what you would call them, Mike. We had this discussion on whether or not we were calling Mikes when Alabama was playing last year. So I just want you to be able to talk to us later, put that in your notes on, okay, when I'm looking at this from the other end, who are you pointing at? Is it actually the W? Is it the M or the S for this matter now? And how you determine that. Okay. So we'll answer that later.
All right. So this is what I would call a simulated pressure. Why is it called a simulated pressure? I want to draw your attention to the weak side end. We call it predator. He's actually dropping out into coverage, and we're going to roll the will over. So it's the same blitz. This is the same. We're still sending the mic. We're just sending them off the edge. We're slanting these 2 guys inside, but we have 1, 2, 3, 4 guys pressuring what looks like it would be the 5th guy, but he's actually going to drop out. And this is why we call it a simulated pressure. We are faking as if we're bringing 5 people by actually just dropping 1 out. A different guy. This is different than the linebacker walking up, faking like he's going to blitz and then dropping out. That's not a simulated pressure. A simulated pressure is where we're trying to get the quarterback to see a blitzing linebacker and then not realize and to think that he's under pressure, that we're going to have 1 extra person or 2 extra people. And we're actually not. We're still just sending our regular 4. And what we run behind it is really not important. So I'm going to skip over that here for a second. So then we can marry those 3 ideas, right? In the first slide, I showed you the Sam coming off the edge. I also showed you the Mike coming off the edge. And then in the last slide, I showed you the end dropping out into pass coverage. So this is what I call a creeper. What makes the difference between a simulated pressure and a creeper? Creeper or simulated pressures, only 4 people are going to end up in the pass rush. Creepers, we're going to get 5. So we still have the same amount of people, and I'll draw them for you. S, M, E, N, T. 5 people. Our standard like 5-man pressure, but we're just going to drop a defensive end out. So this is other coaches will still call this a simulated pressure because we're dropping somebody out. I do make the distinction in calling it a creeper because we've got 5 people and we're going to drop somebody out. Now, what if we decide not to drop somebody out and we just want to bring 6? And this is where the meat of our discussion is going to get to.
So the predator goes.
Right. The
Not
predator
his,
goes. He
his
just doesn't
loss.
have an arrow because he's not doing anything different than he normally would be. But if we want to put those arrows in here, it would look like this. Now we're bringing 6, and as you were talking about earlier, we're hiding somebody. So
He's behind me. There's a R behind me. Yeah.
we're just gonna move our faces out the way.
All right, Mr. Producer. I see you doing things over here.
So now we've got 6 people going, and for those of you playing along at home that can do math, if we've got 6 people pressuring the quarterback, we've only got 5 people to defend the pass, which is totally fine. This is great because if you were unaware, the offense can only send 5 out in a route. So in this particular diagram, that running back probably needs to stay in and help. If not, we've got a free rusher. So this is where I want to open up the floor for Coach Hageman, Coach George, to talk to us about how the offense starts to try to pick up blitzes like this, because I want to make it very clear for our audience that this is not something where it's like, hey, if you just do this, somebody's going to be free every time. It's like, no, there are ways, you can slide, you can keep the back in, and we've got another slide where you can put a tight end in here to even up numbers. But just kind of want you to talk through the process here of how do you start trying to protect against things like this?
Yeah, so I think the first thing that you have to do is give the audience a clear understanding of how you go into a week.
Mhm.
So one of the best things that I've learned early in my career was understanding how to teach my guys and instill in my guys what our base rules are, what they mean, how we identify. Therefore, when we have everything that you just discussed, JT, are all what if situations. So the rules should always cover 95% of the what if situations. Here's what I mean. So in this particular front, we got, to us, this looks like 4 down,
Mhm.
right? We know we got the back.
Is this
We're
where you want
gonna
to
make-
start? Is this where you want to start on this slide, or you want another slide? Would it be easier?
You tell me. I'm good.
Now let's go right here then. Keep
Okay.
going.
So in this, JT's got you guys got 6 coming. But with this look, we're gonna mic with this look, the M, let's say he's 54. We're going into the week knowing we want to mic that way because of the possibility of bringing an extra rusher that side. So here's how it helps us. What that does is, if this case happens, we know that we got this covered through a solid call. So we're miking 54. We got the the left guard coming over, sliding everything that way. We pick up the tackle, the end, the nose guard, the nose tackle, and the mic, understanding that the Sam is coming. Well, our rules take us that way anyway.
So he's saying
So
4 down and make sure everybody's there. He's going. The offensive line is going to take what
The
I'm
4
saying.
down
The 4
and the guy
down
that
and the
identified.
M. Yes.
4 down and the guy we're identifying. Right. So that clears everything up for our back and our quarterback. He understands what he has. So you go into a week understanding what their tendencies are, and you make your calls accordingly. So whatever happens, you have it covered.
Good. Okay. So when you are, talk to me about, because this is an easy deal here. So can you identify? Are you identifying where placements are, or where people are? So meaning, if the S, I'm just saying, I know we don't have the slide. Let's just pretend. If the S was on the other side, who would you identify?
So again, right. So in this case, now the strength shifts, right? The defensive strength shifts. So now we're going to mic to the strength. So
Okay.
let's say the will is 35. So now we're miking 35. So then that changes the direction that we're actually sliding. If that does that make sense?
It does. I know. I mean, I know the answer. I'm just trying to give it to everybody. So the next piece of thought provoking, if it is balanced up, I don't know if JT has a
I can
single.
find one. I didn't put it on here, but if you wanna talk, I can get it in here for you.
If there is a single high look, meaning the S
Yep.
and the R are equivalent to each other down. So when you're looking from a lineman standpoint, right now you can see the overhang, right? The S being an overhang. But if there are two overhangs and now you're game planning, this one a regular, yeah, it would have to go the other way. Where you understand what I'm saying,
I do.
George, where
Again,
the R is down and the S is down, and
so
there's two
again,
overhangs.
I'm finding it for the audience. Give me just one
I,
second.
yeah, it'll be a lot easier when they see it. But to answer your question, because of our rules and because of film study, you're going in understanding, okay, they bring pressure from the boundary or they bring it from the field. So whatever their tendencies are is going to tell us how we're going to slot our protection for the most part.